Coast. It looked like the Husky had turned on the baby. He was doing the only thing he knew that might help her. Coast. Nadia had been fussier than usual for 3 days. Not sick fussy, no fever, no rash. Nothing that gave her parents a clear category. Just the baseline elevated discontent of a baby who was slightly off and couldn't say why. She was 8 months old. Coast. Her name was Nadia Ferrero, and she had the round cheeks and absolute intolerance for unpleasantness that her father, Gustavo, described as the full Nadia experience. He said it with love. It meant long evenings. Coast. Blaze had been with them for 2 years. The Siberian Husky was steel gray and white, with one blue eye and one amber eye, a combination that made him look perpetually watchful even when he was asleep. Coast. He was 4 years old and had adjusted to Nadia's arrival with what Gustavo called studied indifference. He tolerated her presence, kept distance, occasionally sniffed her feet when she was in the bouncer. Nothing more. Until Tuesday evening, Coast. Gustavo was on the living room floor, Nadia propped against a plate cube. Both of them engaged in the business of stacking and knocking over plastic rings. Blaze was across the room. Coast. Then he wasn't. He covered the distance in 6 steps. Not running, but purposeful in a way that had no precedent. Lowered his head and pressed his nose directly to Nadia's right ear. Not her cheek. Her ear. Coast. He held it there. Nadia went completely still, which was unusual for Nadia. She turned her head toward him, slowly, as if the sensation was specific and strange. Blaze exhaled once through his nose, directly against her ear canal, and inhaled, then pressed his nose in again. Coast. Gustavo was on his feet. Blaze, no. Calm. Nothing. The Husky's attention was entirely occupied by the right side of Nadia's head. He was methodical about it in a way that Gustavo's brain could not immediately categorize. Not affectionate, too focused. Coast. Not aggressive, no tension in the body, no raised hackles. Just reading. The word arrived fully formed in Gustavo's mind before he could evaluate it. The dog was reading her. Coast. Gustavo's wife, Carmen, came in from the kitchen at the sound of his voice. She saw the Husky's nose pressed against the baby's ear and said, "Get him away from her." Gustavo pulled Blaze by the collar. Blaze turned, looked at them both with his 2 different colored eyes, and went back to Nadia's ear. Coast. Carmen pulled Nadia onto her lap. Blaze followed them across the room. He circled Carmen's legs twice and sat facing Nadia, oriented toward the right side of her head with the patience of something that intended to wait. They put him in the bedroom. He scratched at the door for 2 hours. Coast. The following morning, Nadia woke crying differently. Gustavo, who had been listening to her cries for 8 months and had developed the involuntary parental ability to categorize them, hungry, tired, overstimulated, dramatic, could not place this one. It was higher and more acute, with less breath between peaks. Coast. He picked her up. She turned her head sharply to the right and cried harder when her right ear pressed against his shoulder. Carmen called the pediatrician's office at 8 a.m. Drive, Lena Abramowitz, who had been seeing Nadia since birth, examined both ears at the 9:30 appointment. The left ear was clear. Coast. The right ear had a moderate severe otitis media, a middle ear infection significant enough that the eardrum was visibly reddened and under pressure. Dr. Abramowitz asked how long Nadia had been fussier than usual. 3 days, Carmen said. Coast. Dr. Abramowitz nodded in the way doctors nod when something confirms what they already suspect. The infection had been building for approximately 72 hours. The pressure had been building with it, the pain was real and had been real for a while. Nonverbal, unlocalizable by the baby herself, but present. Coast. And apparently legible to the dog. If you stay for stories about what animals sense, before we do, you are in exactly the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Coast. Middle ear infections produce specific bacterial metabolites and inflammatory compounds that alter the chemical environment inside and around the ear canal. Coast. Dogs can detect these compounds, Pseudomonas metabolites, inflammatory cytokine markers, the subtle temperature change of a pressurized ear, at concentrations far below human sensory threshold. Blaze had smelled an infection the night before the pain became acute enough for the parents to act. Coast. He had pressed his nose to her right ear. The right ear specifically, not the left. Because that was where the information was. He had stayed because the reading hadn't changed. Coast. He had circled Carmen's legs because the source of the signal had moved and he was maintaining proximity to it. He had scratched at the bedroom door because none of the work was finished. Coast. Gustavo thought about this at length. He had pulled the dog back, said no, put him behind a door. He had identified a 4-year-old Siberian Husky pressing his nose against an 8-month-old infant's ear canal as a problem requiring intervention. He was not wrong to be cautious. He was wrong about what was happening. Coast. Has your dog ever fixated on one specific part of your child's body? An ear, a leg, an arm, in a way that seemed out of proportion? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Boast. The ear infection was treated and cleared within 10 days. Nadia went back to her regular level of mild theatrical discontent within 48 hours, which was comforting in its way. Coast. Blaze went back to studied indifference. The distance, the occasional sniff, the practiced air of a dog with better things to think about. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never ask for anything in return. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Coast? Except now when Blaze approaches Nadia with unusual purpose, Gustavo doesn't pull him back. He watches where the nose goes, and then he calls the pediatrician.